Universal basic income is one of the most important topic for your coming mains 2017. Now just have an idea that in GS1 you have a topic called poverty and development issues. In GS2 you have a topic called issues of poverty and hunger, and in GS3 you have a topic called inclusive growth and issues associated with it. So because of all these topics in GS1, GS2 and GS3, you can expect a question. There's a high chance that in either in GS1 or GS2 or GS3 you can expect a 12.5 mark question on universal basic income, and then you can use the same knowledge for your ethics paper also. And more than that, somewhere I feel that there can be, out of your 8 essay topic, there's a high chance that UPSC may ask this year a essay on universal basic income. So because of all these chances that you prepare this topic thoroughly. Okay, now I will tell you why this topic is very important. First of all, in the volume 1 of this year's economic survey, chapter 9 exclusively have dealt with this topic of universal basic income, and in the entire year there have been from almost all the national newspapers have covered several articles on universal basic income. There were people who support this scheme, there are people who are against this scheme. So we will see that, okay, what stand you need to take if there is a question or if there is an essay on universal basic income. We will start with the basics. Okay, so just note down that why it is important, because it is mentioned in your chapter 9 of economic survey. So basically it's an economic survey topic. I have covered economic survey plus all the major national newspapers. Okay, now from your analysis of this universal, just first we'll start with the basic definition. If there is a question on universal basic income, just have an idea what this concept is all about. See, the concept is mentioned in the term itself, universal basic income or UBI. So here the word is basic income, in the sense that, okay, so you can simply define this UBI or universal basic income as nothing but an unconditional, so this word is very important, unconditional, we'll come and discuss it, okay, unconditional minimum income. So universal basic income is an unconditional minimum income given by the government. So who gives this minimum income? It is the government, and that income is unconditional. And to whom it will be given? It will be given to all the citizens. So in the sense that when the government give a minimum income to all its citizens, what is that? It is universal. So that is what this concept is all about, universal basic income. So universal basic income is nothing but, in simple language, it refers to unconditional minimum income given by the government to all its citizens. Why this word all? Because it is universal. So this is simple definition. So this is the definition where most students will write. But I will suggest that, okay, for you to write this definition rather than that definition. This is very few people write this definition. Okay, you can say that, okay, it is a form of social security. This word is very important. It is a form of social security. It is a form of social security. So that terms makes, so it's a form of social security that involves payments to anyone without work. So that's the meaning of unconditional. So okay, you will get payment. There is no need, there is no condition to get payment. So without work, you will get payment from whom? From the government. And it also means, okay, it is a means of livelihood without conditions. So you can define this also. If you find it difficult to write in this way, that is, it's a form of social security. It's a form of social security that involves payments to anyone without work, or means by providing means of livelihood without any conditions. Or you can give this definition that it's basically involves unconditional minimum income by the government to all its citizens. So depending upon your preparation, you can write the definition. Now, in this definition of UBI, see, UBI have two very important components. Okay, so this should be very clear. One component of UBI is it is unconditional. When you say universal, when the concept, okay, universal basic income in the last few years have been discussed in, means it is a huge topic of discussion in major developed countries. Okay, so what is the reason why the developed countries are thinking about this concept of universal basic income? What is the reason for that? Okay, it's basically because of there have been concern that because of automation, there have been greater job losses. So by providing universal basic income to their citizen, a major problem can be addressed. So that was the reason why many developed countries like Finland and Switzerland are thinking about providing universal basic income to all its citizens. Now, whether this universal basic income as a concept is applicable to countries like India, which is a developing country, we need to discuss. Okay. Now, but when you hear this concept, these two components should be very clear. One is you will get the payment, you will get minimum income without any conditions. Means conditions like this, there are government may give conditions. Okay, if you want to get income, you need to do certain work, or you need to send your children to schools, or you need to do some work. These are conditions. But in UBI, there will be no condition, you will get payment without any conditions. Second, UBI has to be universal, means it should be given to all the citizens. So these are the two major components of UBI. Okay, so it basically, when we hear the word unconditional universal, actually this is showing the socialist doctrine. This UBI as a concept is very interesting, that when we say that, okay, by giving minimum income to all its citizens, it is showing the socialist doctrine. At the same time, keep this in mind, it also have a capitalist philosophy or capitalist angle to this universal basic income. When the government give you minimum income, at the same time the government will terminate or will stop giving all the subsidies given by the government presently. Okay, so since UBI as a concept will give you minimum income, at the same time the government will stop giving you all the welfare benefits which is presently you are getting through different forms of subsidies. So cutting down subsidy is basically a capitalist philosophy or capitalist thinking. So this UBI concept have this both. So when you write your essay answer, you can use these things, but for your general studies, it does not mean you don't need to answer these dimensions. Okay, but just keep this in mind. Okay, UBI as a concept has both these doctrines, socialist doctrine and capitalist mode also. How capitalist mode? By cutting down subsidies. But very clear with this concept. Okay, so we have an idea why. See, this idea have first cropped up among the developed countries in order to address the job losses, mainly due to automation and other crisis, economic crisis happening, especially in the developed world. And this economic survey have continued that, okay, this concept, economic survey has said that, okay, for a country like India, by discussing its pros and cons, economic survey has given an opportunity for the economics in India or for the government to think about this concept. Okay. Now we keep this in mind. Okay, for a country like India, now we'll come to India. Okay, whether it is possible in a country like India to implement this UBI with this concept, means with this dimension, that is universality or unconditionality. Now be very clear that if you want to implement UBI in India, it requires certain prerequisites, certain conditions. First is that since the minimum basic income will be transferred to your bank account, one of the most important condition is that every citizen of a country should have a bank account. So we as a country, there are many people in India who don't have bank account, especially in our rural areas, especially among the weaker sections, especially among the women. Still there are, see, we have a government scheme to address this financial inclusion program, means what is called as Pradhana Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, but still, so if this Pradhana Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana is if it has been implemented properly, then this concern of prerequisite of financial inclusion can be dealt. But just be clear, since the minimum income has been transferred to your bank account, one of the prerequisites for implementing universal basic income is that we as a country should have financial inclusion. That is, every citizen of the country should have at least a bank account, or financial means there should be access for financial services. Second is regarding the funding. That's a very, very, very big concern. The funding for universal basic income. I told you, since it is the government is giving this fund to the people or to the citizen of the country, for a developing country like India, where it faces lot of financial shortages or where we have a high fiscal deficit, is it possible to implement universal basic income in India? That's a big question mark. To answer this question on funding, we'll discuss, okay, we'll see that whether the funding concern can be addressed in India so that we can implement universal basic income or not. So first, after discussing the benefits or advantages and the disadvantages or like the challenges UBI have, we'll discuss this funding concern. Okay. Now regarding the benefits, we'll see there are a lot of benefits being discussed. Okay, you can refer the study material. Study material has been attached with this. It's been given to you. It has been attached with the video for the online students, for those who are our YouTube subscribers. So you can just download that material. But please hear this video. Then only you read the material. Then only it will be beneficial for you. And I will give you other reference also if those are going to write mains this year. Okay. Now, if it is a 200 words, 12.5 mark question, and if they ask for the pros and cons or benefits or the challenges or the issues associated with implementing UBI, these 6 points will be sufficient for you. You just need to elaborate on it. Okay. Now we'll first see that what are the benefits. So the major benefits or the main reason why the government want to implement UBI is to address poverty, to alleviate poverty or to reduce poverty. Okay. So by providing minimum income to the accounts of all the citizens, it can address, government is providing a subsistence dole. Government is providing a subsistence dole to all the citizens of the country. So to an extent, UBI can be an antidote to poverty. As well as, okay, this will help in reducing social inequality. You can address that also as part of poverty reduction. So with the reduction poverty, it can also address social inequality. It can reduce social inequality. Okay, and you can also write that, okay, it will help improving the dignity of the people, certain workers, by giving them an opportunity. For example, there are certain jobs, there are certain socially despised occupations like scavenging, or you can say that which has not been socially acceptable jobs like scavenging, or it's socially despising jobs like prostitution, because see, it's like means those jobs which has not been socially accepted. Okay, by giving these weaker section who do scavenging and other like low means work which affects the dignity of an individual, universal basic income or basic income can help them to say no to these type of jobs. Okay, so that you can say that, okay, this universal basic income can improve the dignity of the workers of our country, especially the work means the people who are from the poor strata of our society. So basic aim of this universal basic income is to address poverty or to reduce poverty and reduce social inequality in India. So that should be your major point as the benefit you can mention. Second, you can mention that, okay, since UBI require bank account to all the citizens of the country, it will help in achieving the financial inclusion. It will help in attaining the goal of financial inclusion and thereby helping the country to attain the goal of inclusive growth. So financial inclusion is a must to attain the goal of inclusive growth. We can mention that. Third is, it will help in improving the administration or administrative efficiency. See, if you see that of many of the welfare schemes or the fund given by the sender or the state to the people for the welfare, people welfare, have resulted in leakages. We are here that a lot of like corruption related issues, leakages related issues, exclusion related errors, by saying that many weaker sections have been excluded from different schemes. Okay, so everything can be addressed, or we can by cutting down the different multiple welfare schemes, because once UBI come into existence, there will be no welfare schemes. Rather, instead of that, the government will give a minimum income to the accounts of all the citizens. So this become easy. So it's for the administration, it is very easy that they can directly transfer the money to the account of the citizens of the country. So thereby, by reducing pilferage, so now we have because of Aadhaar or JAM Trinity, this is possible. That administrative efficiency can be improved, and it will help in reduction of corruption, especially in welfare schemes. So we can say that regarding administrative, that's a benefit. Then there's a different angle to it. Okay, this helps in women empowerment. It helps in women empowerment. Reason is very simple. Okay, if you look into the women of our country, which constitute nearly half of the population, so 3/4 of our women in India, 3/4 of the women in India, they don't have any income at all. 3/4 of the women in India don't have any income at all. So this universal basic income, by transferring income to their respective bank account, can help them, can make them to have a say in family affairs. So presently among the poor, since we are a patriarchal society, and where the woman voice has not been heard, especially among the poor women, by having control over this minimum income, the woman will have a say in family affairs. Not only that, when women have money, it will help in not only benefiting the woman, it will benefit the children also, because she can provide nutritious food, means she can manage better nutrition for herself as well as her children. So that in that way, by providing these poor women who don't have any income at all with a minimum income, it can result in some form of empowerment to these weaker sections. So you can mention that point. And you can mention like this, okay, when a country like India, where lot of uncertainty is there, especially among the weaker sections, this UBI can be an insurance against certain shocks, like if there is any health hazard or health issues or any disaster happens and which affects their employment, it can be insurance against certain shocks. So it can be a social safety for against certain shocks like health issues or disasters. That point you can mention. Now another issue that's a very important issue which you should not miss it. Okay, it's a very important point you need to address regarding the employment issue. Already we discussed that. Okay, this concept emerged in the developed country mainly to address the job losses or unemployment related problem in developed countries. Now when you look into a country like India, okay, this is very vital point. Okay, please write in your answer, because we have a topic called employment also in your economy. Okay, every month in India, 1 million people, that is 10 lakh people is entering the job market. Means the new workforce. I'm not saying entering the job market, means every month in India we are creating 1 million workforce, and this 1 million every month 1 million means that this 1 million people or youth don't have employment opportunities. So these 1 million youth who enter the workforce every month, for them this UBI can be a safety net, social safety net. So that you can mention regarding the employment. Okay, and also you can say that, okay, the present automation which is affecting the employment, that's also, see, automation is affecting India also. So when there is lack of job opportunity, it is means it address this employment or unemployment issues. And also you can mention regarding for the people who are already working or who want to work. Basically among the poor people, there used to be exploitation by providing, you might have seen that in the organized sector also, by in the form of contractual labor, or in the informal sector where the poor people have been given poor wages. By ensuring these poor people with a minimum income, it can help them to go for a better bargaining with the employer. So you can say that, okay, it will help these poor people to go for a non-exploitative bargaining and to give them a better salary or better paid jobs. So these benefits you can mention. There are other benefits also which has been given in the material, you can go through it, but for a 200-word answer, these benefits are more than sufficient. Now, what are the disadvantages, or what are the issues or the criticism against this universal basic income concept? One of the most important criticism against this UBI is that once UBI will come into existence, the government will replace all the welfare schemes, both centrally sponsored schemes and central sector schemes. Now, if you notice one thing, there are certain schemes which have been successful and which have benefited the weaker sections of our society. For example, if you look into the schemes like midday meal scheme. See, midday meal schemes is still successful. What this midday meal scheme provides? It provides hot cooked meals nearly to school children, and it is benefiting more than 150 million school children. Now imagine that if the government stops midday meal scheme, what will happen to these poor children? There is a chance that the poor family will not send their children to school, and it affects their basic fundamental right, that is right to education. Okay, so this is a big concern. Then if you look into schemes like NREGA, presently on an average 60 to 70 days of employment annually. See, around 200 million unskilled workforce is getting employment because of NREGA, and that too they are getting an annual employment of 60 to 70, means in a year they are getting 60 to 70 days employment. And if you look into this workforce, 50% of these workforce who are benefiting NREGA are from scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, which is one of the weakest section. And if you look into the woman angle, 1/3 of this beneficiaries of NREGA are women. So NREGA, as part of this empowering the weaker section, it plays a very important role. So what will happen with UBI coming into existence? The government have to replace all these welfare schemes. So that's the major. And if you look into this schemes like PDS dismantling, if the PDS has been dismantled and instead of that the government is providing them basic income, it can affect nearly the bottom 50 to 60% of the poor sections of the country who are benefited by the PDS system. So basically PDS are in-kind transfer. Okay, there is a chance that this fund, the minimum income which has been transferred to the account of the poor household, they may not use it for getting basic foods or nutritious food. There is a high possibility it can be misused. Okay, so the biggest criticism against UBI is that since UBI will replace all the welfare schemes by instead of that they will be transferring minimum income, it can affect the schemes like MDM, NRG and PDS. There are other schemes also there. So this is one of the biggest criticism against UBI. Second criticism you can write, okay, this point is not there in the material, so please note down, okay, which have been given to you. So it's very important point because I just read in a few articles this is the biggest criticism against UBI. Second, you can mention regarding the computational challenge. See, now we talks about minimum income. Now what will be the minimum income, optimum income for an individual to have a decent, dignified life? So that's a big question mark. Okay, so there is a computational challenge in calculating the optimum amount to be transferred to all the citizens of the country. Okay, so that is another criticism. There will be a greater computational challenge for the government in finding what will be the optimum amount to be transferred in the form of minimum wage. So that's the second criticism. Third is in regarding this very important criticism. Okay, since UBI will result in more money to the system, more money can result in inflation. Inflation can result in reducing purchasing power. Inflation can result in, means when there is inflation, it can affect or it can reduce the purchasing power. So thereby, what the government have to do, whenever the purchasing power of the people reduces, the government frequently have to adjust the minimum wage or UBI, basic income. So it's very difficult for the government to frequently adjust UBI. So that's another problem associated with that is inflation and related issues. UBI can result in inflation and it can reduce the purchasing power, and because of that the government have to adjust UBI frequently, which is a big problem for the government. So that's another criticism against UBI. Fourth is regarding the labor supply. There have been criticism that okay, what this UBI will do, it will discourage people from seeking employment. Once people will be getting minimum wage, it can discourage people to go for employment. So that can affect the cost of labor. The labor cost, especially as for any industry, will affect. See, now try to understand that this is a very important point, that we as a country have a larger workforce, young workforce, and one of the specialty of India is that we, compared to China now, is that our workforce means we as a country, we have cheap labor, and cheap labor have resulted in India becoming a competitive, in certain industries this cheap labor have helped them to be more competitive, and it has helped those industries to be more export oriented. That has helped them to increase the exports and thereby helping the GDP growth of the country. So this can be have an effect. So it will affect the competitive side of certain industry. It can increase the cost of labor. So this is another criticism regarding the labor supply when UBI comes into existence. So there are two angles to labor problem. One is the employment related problem, and the other is see this, they can exclude, means they can directly ask how UBI affects the labor market. So then you have to address the benefits and the challenges or the issues associated with UBI. So that can be a question also. Now, then the other criticism is against gender disparity. Okay, if we very clear, you might have studied in Indian society. Okay, we are still a patriarchal society. There is greater gender disparity is seen in our society, and you know that the male members can regulate, or male members will exercise control over the money received by the female members. So what will happen is that the money, the intended money, the what we discussed here, that woman empowerment, all these things will become a practically difficult for a country like India, where patriarchy plays a very important, patriarchy controls or have an impact over the gender relations. So it means this is one of the reasons for, so gender disparity can have an impact. So because of that, since men can have more control over the income, even to the female members' income, the critic says that okay, it is better to have in-kind transfers like PDS than this universal basic income. So that's another criticism. Last one, you can, again, it's related questioning. It can result in, since because of this gender disparity, because of this patriarchal mindset, okay, where the men have more control or more power in family affairs, this money received in the form of basic income can result in the men buying temptation goods like alcohol, cigarettes instead of purchasing nutritious food. So there is a high probability that the fund, the minimum income, the income which they receive to a household will be controlled by the male members, and that can result in they misusing this fund for temptational goods. So these are the criticism you can mention. So you be very clear with these points regarding the advantages or disadvantages of universal basic income. Now the question here, I told you that there is whether for a country like India, whether can we arrange the fund to implement universal basic income? Yes, we can arrange fund for universal basic income, provided you just have an idea regarding what is the issue regarding. Now if you look into these facts are very important, okay. If you look into if you add both the central government and state government subsidies, it constitutes 5% of GDP. Presently, central and state subsidies constitute 5% of GDP, and most of these subsidies it's not benefiting the poor section. The well-off section is benefiting by these subsidies. There are different forms of subsidies are there. Okay, so and also if you note that you are studying in your public finance that the tax expenditure or the revenue foregone by the government is nearly 6% of GDP. Now we have a subsidy regime which is 5% of GDP, and most of these subsidies are not reaching the targeted beneficiary, and we have following a financial policy where 6% of the GDP is being through tax foregone. Even if we can arrange 1/3 of this tax foregone, that is 2% of GDP, and if we can utilize this subsidy, the fund required for implementing universal basic income can be arranged. You can say that by increasing the tax to GDP ratio. Now when you say tax to GDP ratio, mention the direct tax to GDP ratio, not indirect tax. By increasing the direct tax to GDP ratio, but you can give a lot of examples. Presently, India's real estate and property tax assessments, are not up to the mark. They are very low. So if the government can properly assess the real estate and property tax assessment, the government can increase the tax to GDP ratio. Now presently the government is is providing no tax, especially for capital gains tax in equity market. We have a policy like zero taxation of agricultural income. We can, again, there is a proposal, there was a discussion regarding imposing tax on agricultural income, especially mainly to rich farmers. There have been discussion, but what I am trying to say is that there have been lot of opportunity for a country like India to improve the direct tax to GDP ratio. So you can say that by ensuring that the subsidies which were diverted, if it has been properly used, and if the government can raise fresh taxation resources, we will get the fund so funding can be addressed, issue can be addressed if the government just look into these matters. So you can give that. So you cannot say that India is a developing country and India does not have no resources to implement this concept like universal basic income. So you can address this funding issue by telling these solutions. You don't say that funding is a problem or you give how this fund can be raised to implement universal basic income. Now my question is, since there have been benefits and issues related with universal basic income, what will be your stand on UBI? So try to understand that the universal in India, which is a developing country where majority of the people are poor, this idea is important. We can implement universal basic income or UBI by making it unique to Indian conditions, by following a sui generis model. So what you can suggest is presently the debate is with two dimensions. There are two people who support and people who are against UBI. The people who support UBI, what is their version is that UBI is better than leaky subsidies on inputs and services. They say that, okay, UBI is better than leaky subsidies. Then those who are against UBI, they say that, okay, it is an excuse to squeeze this government welfare expenditure like PDS, NREGA, health and education. So these were the two dimensions, people who support and who are against it. But there are the third dimension which you can say, that is that the government, by raising the direct tax to GDP ratio and getting rid of unproductive welfare spending. See, the welfare spending has to be productive. It means that the money have to reach the targeted sections of the society. So by raising the direct tax to GDP ratio, by saying this and getting rid of unproductive welfare spending, the government can implement universal basic income, or with the modification, without what you can suggest is that, okay, by keeping certain welfare schemes like NREGA and midday meal scheme, we can implement universal basic income with certain conditions. Conditions are, okay, you can say that you can conclude like this: basic income is essential. You conclude like this: we require basic income, but when you implement basic income, the state ensure that the state cannot do away with indirect subsidy to social infrastructure. Okay. See, the government presently is providing indirect subsidy to social infrastructure like health, education, etc. So, and especially for these schemes, okay, the government without replacing these major schemes which are very effective, without withdrawing from social infrastructure like education and health, the government can go for implementing universal or basic income, but with a condition that, okay, we can't, see, in India, unconditional UBI is not possible. In India, unconditional UBI means, if you give money to the people without any condition or without any work, what will happen is that there can be a chance of misusing this money. So what we can suggest is, in the present scenario, where we have financial constraints, where we want to ensure that this fund is being properly utilized for welfare expenditure, what the government can suggest is that we can link this income, this minimum income, the government can link this minimum income with an activity to make this scheme viable. So what you can conclude is that in India, where majority of the people are poor, where majority of the people are unemployment, this UBI as a concept without any condition, which is possible in a country like developed country, is not possible in India. So when the government give minimum income, it need to ensure that it has to transfer or provide this income by keeping in mind that this income transfer will be based on certain activity, so that the affluent people will not do any activity, so that only the targeted section will benefit. Those who perform the activity which the government intend to do will get this minimum income, so that it can address the employment problem also. It can implement this basic income, universal basic income, which is more effective. So try to understand that when this, we already have a basic income scheme in the form of a conditional, see, so we want is a conditional basic income scheme, not unconditional basic scheme. So already we as a country have a conditional basic income scheme in the form of NREGA. So National Rural Employment Guarantee, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is basically a basic income scheme, but with conditions. What is the conditional? How NREGA is a conditional basic scheme? It says that it provides basic income for the poor and it guarantees 100 days of work per year and it is guaranteeing a minimum wage. So NREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, is providing minimum wage with 100 days of employment. So the condition is you have to do 100 days of employment. Okay, but for the rural area, but in India we can make it UBI. Once UBI will come into existence, you can make it universal, means both in rural and urban area. So since we have a conditional minimum wage scheme in the form of NREGA, the lessons we have learned from NREGA can be used to implement conditional basic income or universal basic income in India. So for a country which is having huge shortage of fund, which a country which follow a welfarist state principle, this sui generis or unique model of universal basic income can be implemented in India, and that can address or that can ensure the governmental or the every state's goal of reducing social inequality and elevating poverty. So this way you can conclude your answer. So why I am discuss these points is that I am already told you I am expecting an essay on universal basic income. So my few suggestions for those students who are going to write mains this year 2017 is that one, you can refer this the material being attached with this video. Second is, please refer few editorials of national newspapers like Indian Express, Hindu, Times of India, Business Line, etc., so that it will help you to take your own stand also. So I have referred all these newspapers to come to an analysis or a conclusion of the stand to be taken over universal basic income. It will help you to, because you can expect an essay over universal basic income. Thank you.